As you mentioned, there could be another Supreme Court decision. We have one. Shannon Bream is here with us. This is about a religious liberty, and this was in favor of the Catholic foster group. Explain what happened.
City of Philadelphia, and there is a Catholic Charities group that actively works with the foster care system. They work with the city in an agreement, among other groups that do this as well, to place children in foster care. Now, the Catholic Charities group does not place children with same-sex couples, so Philadelphia had said that violates their anti-discrimination statutes, and they wouldn't work with the Catholic Charities anymore. This thing has gone on for years, back and forth, in a 9-0 decision. And listen, there are a lot of concurrences, meaning there are a lot of different reasons that the justices got to this opinion. They've sided with Catholic Charities and sent this case back down to the lower court to be re-decided. So what we have here is essentially 9 justices, and it's an interesting makeup. The Chief Justice writes this primary opinion, and what they say is this. They talk about the free exercise clause of the First Amendment, saying Congress should make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. The court says this right up front. As an initial matter, it is plain that the city's actions have burdened the Catholic Charities group their religious exercise by putting it to the choice of curtailing its mission or approving relationships inconsistent with its beliefs. So either the Catholic Charities can't do what they feel is a big mission for them, which is to work and place these foster children and be a part of that program in the city of Philadelphia, or they have to turn away from Catholic Church doctrine and what it believes about same-sex relationships. So a lot to read here, but there's not a single dissenter. So it's a very interesting opinion. I think a little bit surprising for those of us who have been watching the court. There's not a single dissent here, but ultimately the court gives a lot of guidance about how they think this should be decided and sends it back.
Shannon, stand by. Jonathan Turley's with us. Professor, good day to you. First, your reaction on this and also the Obamacare ruling.
Well, first of all, this is yet another unanimous decision in a long line of these decisions. It's a rather inconvenient time for critics of the court to hear these justices speaking in one voice. You know, this is supposedly a ideologically divided and hopelessly dysfunctional court. You know, President Biden referred to it as out of whack. But they've now issued all of these decisions that are unanimous or certainly non-ideological, and it really rebuts this argument. This is a major decision. This is saying that you need to accommodate free exercise under the Constitution when there are these conflicts with anti-discrimination laws. This is very important as well because we now see a previous case called Masterpiece Cake Shop coming back into the courts. This was a baker who said that his free exercise and free speech rights were being denied by being compelled to make cakes for celebrations that he had objections to. This is good news, I think, for those who are preparing that case as it goes into the system.
Jonathan, could I just jump in here? Because actually we just had Jack Phillips of Masterpiece Cake Shop on the show about 30 minutes ago. And one of the issues was that the Supreme Court had ruled so narrowly and had not addressed the issue of whether that the government can compel somebody to create something, art that disagrees with something that they believe. Does this 9-0 decision in the court solve that particular problem?
I don't think it solves it, but it certainly helps his position. He's right that the court sort of took an exit ramp. They ruled for him. But the result was that a lot of these groups started hitting him with more requests for cakes to try to create yet another challenge. This certainly helps. This is the latest of a long line of cases where the court is protecting the free exercise clause and particularly a case where it's up against an anti-discrimination law. And the other thing I wanted to note is that the earlier decision of the ACA also doesn't fit this narrative of the court. If you remember, during her confirmation, Amy Coney Barrett was surrounded by pictures of people who would lose their health care coverage, and they were portrayed almost like her future victims. And at the time I objected and said, there is no reason at all to view this case as seriously threatening the ACA, that the odds were heavily in favor that the act would not be struck down. But this narrative just continued to the confirmation hearings, while Barrett joined her justices in dismissing this challenge. It was a completely fallacious argument being put forward during her confirmation hearing.
There have been some, to both of you, Shannon and Professor Turley, on this. There's some pieces written lately about these 9-0 decisions, and there were a few others earlier in the month of June. And the suggestion is that, you know, progressives suggesting that Justice Breyer should retire is not appreciated by the other 8 justices. Suggestions that the U.S. Supreme Court should be expanded with Democrats in control of the U.S. government. Professor, do you buy into that this is a statement on behalf of justices when they go 9-0?
Well, the justices don't vote to send a message, in my view. They're more principled than that. These are people that care deeply about their legacy, but they do control when they release these opinions. They do control what cases to select. This has been a bumper crop of unanimous and non-ideological decisions. And it is sort of like the court clearing its throat a bit and showing the public that these critics are really not describing the reality of the court.
Shannon, do you agree with that? Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, what's interesting about this latest 9-0 decision is that they appear to be more divided during the argument, and it's taken forever to get this opinion. So I wonder in the back of my mind, is there any way in that they were having internal conversations with themselves, I don't think pretty much with each other, but about how they wanted this vote to be communicated when it did come out. So I'm not really sure, but we have had statements from Justice Breyer and others, his most recently kind of pushing back on this idea of packing the court, saying if you want to make structural changes to the court to avoid looking political, then you make it look political. And the truth is there are 9-0 decisions more than people think. I think a lot of times the 5-4, those are the ones that get headlines. So it's not as unusual as people think, but there's certainly a laser-like focus on these votes and exactly what they're doing. They're a very insular group. They stick together as much as they can. They respect the institution and what they're doing there. And I think that's clearly their number one priority, to vote in principle and what they believe is the right decision. But I think they're also very united in protecting the court as much as they can from any political influence.
Jonathan, could you help us understand one thing? I understand where the Catholic foster group is coming from. What was the argument that the LGBT couples that wanted to do foster care, what was the case they were trying to make?
Well, they were arguing that the city essentially permits or licenses these groups to handle adoptions, and that the city has a strong anti-discrimination law for LGBT individuals. And for the city, it was a very simple matter, you know, that this is discrimination based on the status of these couples. What the charities were arguing is that the city can still accomplish its anti-discrimination goals. There are other available adoption groups and organizations, and that they don't have to force religiously based organizations to adhere to this policy when it would essentially countermand their religious beliefs. This is a conflict we're going to have more and more as anti-discrimination laws conflict with religious and free speech rights. And the court is beginning to bring a degree of clarity here. I think that what you're seeing on the justices is a recognition that we're going to need a more bright line rule so that people know where they are protected in terms of not just freedom of religion, but freedom of speech.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.